live on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We are live on YouTube. How's everyone doing today? How's it going? It is 65 degrees here at Bear Island in Redwood City. And I'm out and about on another walk with purpose. Episode number 866. Welcome to Navigating the Modern World with Eli, the Walking with Purpose live edition. Again, this is episode number 866. And today we're going to stem off of a stream I did earlier this morning on my main channel regarding last night's election results. I shared my thoughts. If you missed that show, go below in the description and click the link where it says GNA, Genuine Personal Development. If you haven't subscribed over there to the main channel, subscribe, bang the bell, select the notifications so you don't miss anything. I'm going to be going live over there for the studio streams until the end of the year. And then they're going to move back over here in the new year. Then studio streams will come back over here on GNA2, Genuine Life Personal Development, and they'll be joining these streams here on the walks. And then the main channel will go back to doing pre-recorded content in the YouTube Shorts and other non-live material. So, yeah, the last 24 hours have been very interesting. In the stream I did earlier today, I turned off the live chat and the comments. And interestingly enough, I got a comment held for review from a woman that I guess I used to be friends with many years ago. I'm not going to mention who it is. It's not anyone that people would know on my end. But it was someone that I initially met through a community called the I Am a Creator community. And this woman felt the need to send me a message and say, first of all, you're not a political commentator. I never said I was. And second of all, you're never going to grow your channel if you turn off your chat and turn off your comments. That's your opinion. I beg to differ. I rarely do that. When I do that, it is for a certain reason. Yeah, keep alt-right hidden, Tia. I mean, you don't need to come in here and be doing tit for tat. You know, we're going to have reasonable discussions, or we're just going to remove you. Hey, Tia, how are you doing? I read what alt-right said. Alt-right said, one thing you said earlier was a bit hypocritical. You said Trump voters don't take everyone's feelings into account, but I can say the same to Harris voters. You can say that, but it isn't true, sir. It isn't true. I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying it's everyone that voted for Trump, because Tia here and Sandra here on our end, they're conservatives and they voted for Trump, but they're reasonable people. And there's always an exception, sir, to every rule. What I'm speaking on is the majority. The majority of the Trump supporters are very ignorant, in my opinion, and all they care about is themselves and just winning and sticking it to the liberals. The liberals are not like that. We want to win. We're disappointed, but we're not sore losers. Kamala Harris conceded today. Was a very professional and respectful speech, and she said that there will be a peaceful transition to power. That's not what happened in 2020, and that's probably not what would have happened if Trump lost. So there you go. Now back to the other woman that was stating, "Hi Revelations, how you doing, bro?" TS says, "Hi Revelations." This woman, felt the need to tell me that if I turn off my chat and turn off my comments, I'm not going to ever grow. That's your opinion and not true. I didn't want to be interrupted by trolls and haters and crazy conservatives like you, because she's a crazy conservative. So maybe I can do this and be fair. I don't want to really label people, but there are normal, real, regular conservatives like Tia and Sandra and Queen Helen Casey, and then we have crazy conservatives, or fake conservatives, or maybe they are real conservatives, but they lack emotional self-control. I voted for Jesus Christ for president, crossed out all the other names. Christ is king, but I want him as president of the U.S. I will agree with that, dude. I will agree with that. I will take Jesus Christ or God as president over anyone any day. Amen, dude. That's why your name is Revelations, right? From the book of Revelations, right? I get it, dude. That's fantastic. Well said. And then this same woman, thanks, brother. You're like, yeah, you're welcome, dude. So, what's her name? I'm not going to mention her name, actually. This woman, she ended up saying that also when you block conservatives, you're blocking half your audience. Well, here's the thing, ma'am. I don't block all conservatives. I block people that are rude, obnoxious, and are just out here to troll and project onto me, right? It doesn't matter if they're liberal or conservative or down the middle. It doesn't matter if they're black, white, blue, green, right? Doesn't matter if they're male or female or gay, lesbian, bi, trans. Doesn't matter who they are. The bottom line is, you violate my rules. If you disrespectfully disagree. Like, I don't have a problem if we disagree. Tia and I disagree on some stuff, and so do Sandra and I. But we respectfully disagree. If you can respectfully disagree with me, you're more than welcome to stick around for as long as you continue to be respectful. But the moment that you disrespectfully disagree, hide user from channel. Then if you start to tag me in to harass me, then I'll Google block you too. Then you're non-existent to me. That's just the way it goes, right? So, as far as I'm concerned regarding this woman, you really felt the need to stick it to me because obviously what I say really bothers you, what I say interests you, right? It's really interesting that people that claim to hate you or come up like they hate you actually love watching you. If you want to call it hate watching, call it hate watching. The truth of the matter is they're interested in hearing what you have to say. In this case, this woman that I banned off the other channel, I banned on this channel. I guess I had not banned her on the main channel. I banned her on this channel years ago, but she had the other channel wide open and she took the opportunity to try to sucker punch me, right? It's all good, man. Thank you for your comment. I did remove it and I did also ban you. Best of luck to you. Take care. No harm, no foul. And I don't even think you're a bad person, ma'am. You know who you are. I'm not going to mention you. But the truth of the matter is, you're in bed with people I don't want to be in bed with. You're associated with people that I don't want to associate with. And yes, I do believe in guilty by association, and that's just how I am. That's my choice. And if it impedes my channel from growing, that's my fault. Why do you care if my channel grows or not? Because you don't give a shit about me. Why do you care if my channel grows or not, right? One day it will happen, says Tia. Well, Tia, that would be nice. It would be nice. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep moving forward, and whatever will be, will be. I have my days. Some days I feel like I put in all this effort for what, right? Some days everyone's gonna feel like that, but you know what? I never give up. I'm not a quitter. I will never ever quit. I just won't. So welcome to day 14 of the GNA membership drive. GNA is short for Genuine Networking Association. We teach personal development. We help people better their lives by inspiring you and motivating you to learn to better love yourself, because when you learn to love yourself in a non-selfish way, you're going to have that positive attitude, and your positive attitude is going to be infectious and radiate in the universe, and you're going to attract great people that are going to bring more value to your personal and professional lives. Now, until I update the website with some things, including the GNA Positivity Pledge, which will be coming soon, I still need to get that website landing page going. I'm hoping to have it up by next week. It's not going to be up this week. I've got too much going on this week, too many other things going on this week. But the way you can join for right now is just by subscribing here, and make sure you bang the bell and select the notifications, and make sure you go below in the description, like I mentioned earlier, and subscribe to the main channel, GNA, Genuine Personal Development. Subscribe there as well, bang the bell and select the notifications. You won't miss anything, whether we go live or put out a pre-recorded video or a short or whatever, right? So, the topic today ooh, what was that? Wow. The topic today is Democrats need a bigger presence online. One more time. Democrats need a bigger presence online. I was watching a guy named Brian Tyler Cohen, I believe is his name. He's He's a liberal um, YouTuber that has over 3 million subscribers. And he's obviously not a Trump supporter, but he's a very fair person with his commentary. And he's one of the few liberal content creators I've come across out here on YouTube that has a decent following. It seems like it's been very difficult to find liberal content creators. Ever since I've been on YouTube, all I've noticed is a super majority of conservative content creators. Now, let me wait for these people to pass by. By the way, if you would like to help us reach our super chat goal today, you see it listed there. One of these days when we reach the goal, Don will come back earlier than the beginning of the new year and do a live show with me publicly. So if you look at the chat and you see the little goal icon there, you can click on it and you'll see what it's all about. It's this new feature called Super Chat Goals that's in an experiment stage. They're beta testing it right now. And I was given early access to beta test it only here on GNA 2. The main channel does not have this yet. But eventually they said it should be rolling out to all creators and all channels that are in the YouTube Partner Program in the months ahead. I think it's a pretty cool feature. And if we don't reach it today, maybe we'll reach it tomorrow, maybe we'll reach it the next day. You know? It's never too late. But anyway, when I first started doing content full time out here with the personal development in the past, I used to do the coaching thing, which I pretty much still do the same thing. I just no longer call myself a coach. But when I first came out here to teach personal development 6.5 years ago or so, I started to realize an abundance of conservative content creators. The first one I came across, everyone knows who he is, was Alex Jones. He was still on YouTube back then. And I would watch him every now and then, not because I agreed with what he was saying, but I just thought he was crazy. And I was like, how the hell is YouTube allowing all this? Next thing you know, over the next year, he was removed from YouTube for violating their terms of service. And then you remember what he did with the Sandy Hook thing. He called it all a hoax, and then he was sued for that for like $50 million. He lost. And he didn't have that kind of money. I think he filed bankruptcy or something. I can't remember. But Alex Jones was like one of the first ones I came across, right? Then I started coming across other channels like there's a guy named Tim Pool who runs Timcast. He's like a late 30s millennial dude that used to be liberal. Like I think in the 2016 election he was liberal, but then in 2020 he changed to conservative. And I'm sitting here and thinking to myself, at least back then, after I'd been on the platform for a while, and I started to realize that if you create content on YouTube more so cater to a conservative audience, you will get a bigger audience and make more traction. And that is true to a certain extent, because I've realized there are more active conservatives on social media in general than liberals. And when I was watching Brian Tyler Cohen, I believe is how you pronounce his name, he was actually broadcasting Kamala Harris's concession speech. She was conceding. And he was saying at the very end, he's like, this is one of the reasons why I feel Kamala lost and Democrats are getting buried by Republicans, because we're not reaching them on social media. We don't have a big enough presence. I've been saying this for years. That's part of the reason why I probably haven't grown a lot myself, because my views are a little more left-leaning, and I love conservatives too that are reasonable. Don't get me wrong, but I have more left-leaning views. So the majority of the conservative audience, unless they're reasonable and decent, like Tia, Sandra, and Queen, and a few other reasonable conservatives, they're not going to follow me. They're not interested in anything to do with the left. Right? So after hearing, Brian with like 3.5 million subs say that today, after Kamala Harris, conceded to Donald Trump in very respectful ways, after I heard Brian Tyler Cohen say that, I was like, that makes absolute sense. Trump went on to Joe Rogan podcast, which used to be out here on YouTube, and then he got that $100 million deal, I believe, with Spotify. He's a conservative dude. He also invited Harris to come on, but Harris declined. And if I was Harris during that time, I would have probably declined too. But now, after hearing what Brian said on the stream earlier, I would have said, okay, you want me to come on your conservative podcast? I'll come on. Let's talk. Be right back. Hold on. All right, we are back live. I'm sorry, I forgot to put on my Do Not Disturb, and I was getting a few YouTube notifications, so I just turned on my Do Not Disturb. I had to get to the other screen, but we're back, okay? Conservatives have a bigger platform on social media, and they're reaching the younger voters, the Gen Zers, the millennials. They're reaching the younger voters that want to be reached on social media. The Democrats, nowhere to be found. Now, don't get me wrong, they have a presence, but it's not that big. Sure, they all have Twitter, and I think most of them even have YouTube channels. But hardly any of them, I've never seen any of them do a podcast. Podcasting is one of the biggest things you can do in politics, because people want to hear you get interviewed, and they want to hear a huge political figure get interviewed by someone like Joe Rogan, that's a huge podcast figure or star, however you want to say it. And he's independent. He's not with the mainstream media. He's independent. And that's the thing. Brian Tyler Cohen said Harris and the Democrats have been relying on the New York Times or New York Post and mainstream media but they're not really dealing with the independent market, which is where I hate to admit it, I love the independent market myself. This is where I'm at. Now, don't get me wrong, I watched CNN last night. I like watching CNN and the Magic Wall with John King, and CNN has great coverage. I like it better than Fox News, but the truth of the matter is CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all those news stations, or even if you're watching ABC, CBS, Fox, right, whatever, NBC, whatever, right, regular NBC, whatever you're watching your regular news on is called mainstream media. And most people nowadays either don't trust the mainstream media, or they're bored of it, or they would rather watch an independent creator or podcaster over the mainstream media. That's where the Democrats are failing. And I feel that's part of the reason why it's been harder for me to reach an audience out here on YouTube, because I'm not conservative. And the Democrats are nowhere to be found. They are out here, but for every one Democrat, there's like 50 Republicans, right, doing content. And the Republicans are making a lot of noise through podcasting and stuff like that, and the Democrats that are out here are barely putting out any content. And I'll tell you this, I've learned one thing about the modern world. I've watched a lot of content out here on YouTube over the last 6.5 years, 7 years, since I've been doing this pretty much full time. I've been on YouTube longer, but about 6.5, 7 years ago when I started to do the personal development stuff, I started to follow other creators regarding internet marketing and stuff like that. And all I've heard since that point is content is king. Content is king, right? Whoever puts out the most content is going to win. Now, you don't want to put out garbage, but you also don't have to, have every piece of content you put out be perfect. As a matter of fact, a lot of times what people like about my content is the fact that I'm raw, real, and on the fly. There have been times where I've gone live with my girlfriend Dawn and unexpected things happen. She snapped at me or whatever, right? And we didn't plan for that to happen. She had her moments, I had mine, things happen. But guess what? The audience was entertained by it. Now, I'm not saying that we wanted that to happen. We didn't want it to happen, right? But the point I'm trying to make is that nowadays people want you to put out more and more content, and it doesn't have to be, how do I say this the right way? I'm very big on high quality, sharp video and great audio. But nowadays, your audio and video don't have to be perfect. They have to be good enough to be able to hear it and see it at least somewhat. But I've seen some videos out there with fuzzy video and crappy audio, but you can still kind of hear it, and they have millions of views because it's about the message. It's about bonding and connecting with someone that you can relate to, right? Or has similar interests, or is talking about something that interests you, right? So if you're someone that does something that interests people and you don't put out content regularly, then the people that are following you for that type of content are going to go elsewhere. So content is king. Democrats have failed at that. They've been failing at that since the start of the internet. I will give this to Republicans. Republicans are geniuses when it comes to internet marketing. As much as I can't stand Donald Trump, he is a genius at marketing. He's a genius at playing people. He's a genius at doing things that are going to elevate your emotions, piss you off, and never forget his existence. And as much as I can't stand that type of marketing, because there are other people on YouTube that do the same things, it works. It fucking works. Tia says it's too censored mainstream. You know what's interesting? I'm hearing a few more curse words slip on mainstream media. I heard the shit word on CNN last night, and they let it go through. I don't think the FCC really cares as much anymore, as long as the context is in the right context. And number two, if it's after a certain time in the evening, they really don't care because most kids are asleep. And third, the FCC is like, shit, kids know things before we do nowadays. So it's like they use these words whether we try to censor them or not, right? But I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think what you mean by censorship is that CNN censors conservatives and Fox censors liberals. And to a certain extent, that's kind of true, but they both have been getting better at getting the other side of the story because there's always two sides to every story, right? Right, Tia? But listen, if I had a choice, let me read what Tia says here. They only want you to hear what they want to say. That's true to a certain extent. Everybody has an agenda. That's true. That's true. And they got to feed their audience that they had, just like people do out here on YouTube to keep them around, so the sponsors can keep sponsoring them, right? I get what you're saying, Tia. I get it. I totally get it. I really totally get it. Woolworth, Eli, this is a sad day in America. Greetings from Ohio. Hey, Woolworth, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. Yeah. If you haven't had a chance, Woolworth, go below in the description, and there's a link to my main channel. I did an hour and a half professional stream from the studio with my high quality setup, my mic and all that. And if you've got any long drives coming soon, put it on through your Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It'll sound nice and clear, and you'll hear my thoughts. I was also talking about, how California, how valuable and important California is to the entire U.S. And how much people from the Midwest and the South take us for granted and call us liberal sacks of shit and call us, what's the other thing? What's the other thing it's called? They call us the lib T-A-R-D word, right? The mentally challenged word we can't say anymore. They call us lib T-A-R-D-S, right? Or liberal sacks of caca, right? I donated a substantial amount of money to the Harris campaign. I think there is some funny business with the vote count. You wanna know something? You wanna know something, Woolworth? I was thinking that could be a possibility too, but I wasn't gonna say anything about it. I'll briefly say something now. I was thinking that could be a possibility because she campaigned hard. And she raised a lot of money. But I'm not going to come out here and accuse anyone. If something comes up and we hear about it in the news, then we'll talk about it. But I'm not gonna do what Trump did in 2020 and start going out there and saying, we think there's widespread voter fraud. On the flip side this time. But I get what you're saying, man. And yeah, I didn't have money to donate this time. I mean, I'm hoping by next year my finances will be better to where I can donate to these causes. But that's awesome, dude. Much appreciated. I think you're a guy. Correct? If I'm wrong, I apologize. But donating, that's awesome. Thank you for your donation to the Harris campaign. I'm going to do the whole trail today because I got enough time to do it. No, I understand where you're coming from. But, you know, that's a gut feeling, and that's not good enough to call people out or accuse people. But I understand what you're saying. I get it. I get it. And you know what? I'm not trying to be rude to Trump supporters like Tia and Sandra and Queen Helen Casey. But I'm sorry. I can't put anything beneath Trump's capabilities. If this guy is able to commit 34 felonies and now he's exonerated. He's exonerated now. And what is this King's bill that Chuck Schumer is trying to get before the changing of the guards happens in Congress? What is this King's bill? Is it called the King's bill or something like that, where presidents and vice presidents will be held accountable for any criminal activities while they're in office? Like regular citizens, they will not be allowed to pardon themselves. I just started hearing about that. Have you folks heard about that? Good for him, says Tia. The Alex Jones of the world is what is wrong with this country. You're right. You're absolutely right. No, Alex Jones, woo! He was saying that Sandy Hook didn't happen. He said it was a hoax. And then he got sued over it and lost like 50 million that he didn't have. You remember Alex Jones, Woolworth, back in the days of YouTube? We're talking 6 years ago? Yeah, he was, when I first came on doing this semi-full-time or full-time, however you want to say it, 6.5 years ago, Alex Jones was still on YouTube, man. That dude was running his mouth. And like I said earlier, I would watch him, not because I didn't support him. I would watch him because I thought this guy was nuts. And I'm like, how the hell is YouTube keeping this guy on? I was like, whoa. And next thing you know, less than a year later, he gets removed for terms of service. He was gone. And then he created this. Then he created his own platform. Yeah. But that's part of the problem, is that Democrats don't have a big enough online presence. And again, Republicans are masters of the internet. They are. Like, listen, right is right and wrong is wrong. I'm not going to come out here and say everything that conservatives do is wrong just because I'm slightly on the left. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And I'm going to come out and say flat out that conservatives are far, far, far better internet marketers and know how to leverage the online world to their benefit far more than Democrats or liberals. And that's why Donald Trump won. A main reason why Donald Trump won is because he's a marketing genius. And I don't agree with his marketing style. I don't think his marketing style is ethical, but it works. And he got enough people on his side to win the election. And if our government system is so fucked up and corrupt to the point of where it allows presidents to break the law and then pardon themselves if they get into office again, like in this case with Trump, then honestly, can you really even blame Trump? The thing is, yeah, Trump did all those crimes, but can you blame Trump for exploiting a flaw in the law of our government? Let's be fair here, right? So I'm hearing this new bill that Schumer is trying to pass before the changing of the guards. Have you folks heard of that? What's it called? Like the King's Bill or something? Again, I can't remember. Somebody help me out here. I'm sure you've heard of it. Part of the problem also is when you have conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones talking about the, so to speak, deep state, right? And then telling an audience of his followers that certain things like Sandy Hook never happened. And then if you were one of the parents that lost your kids in the Sandy Hook incident, and then you're hearing this guy, how the hell is that supposed to make you feel? And if you're following Alex Jones and you're seeing parents cry on TV and hurt that their kids passed away due to a tragic event at Sandy Hook, what kind of where is your mindset at? Where is your brain at believing everything that comes out of the mouth of someone like Alex Jones? This is what happens. And I'm not trying to be critical to conservatives, but conservatives tend to more so brainwash their audience to follow them. And liberals don't do that really. I'm not saying all liberals don't do it, but the majority of liberals do not use brainwashing tactics to lead their followers to believe something is true that isn't, just to keep them around. I'm just saying, this is what I've noticed. I've noticed a lot of this really odd behavior by many conservatives, especially conservative people that are creating content like on YouTube, or conservative people in power or whatever, right? Let's get up to the observation deck since nobody's around. It's probably below 65 right now. I'm glad I put my jacket on because it's, even though the sun's out, it's starting to get a little chilly. Not chilly enough to put the gloves on, but chilly enough for a jacket. And with my jacket on, I feel really good. So you can see the waves, and if you can see the windscreen, the windscreen microphone here, you can see it moving around a little bit, but you're probably not hearing a lot of wind because it works pretty well. You know, I'm gonna take a break a second here and just show you folks what I see. I can lean up against this back fence. It is strong. Make sure if you lean on a fence, it's strong, and you're not going to fall backwards and fall and get very majorly hurt at the least. But I can lean back here and just look at the view. And over there is where I started the walk, and you walk all around. It's 1 3/4 miles out here to the observation deck, and 1 3/4 miles back. So that's 3.5 miles plus. Sometimes I'll walk an extra half a mile in the parking lot and stuff. So typically when I come out here, I do 3.5 to 4 miles. I haven't slept since yesterday. I am very upset. Hopefully Congress doesn't approve the results. Woolworth. Here's the thing. I really, obviously you voted for Harris, so we're on the same page, right? And I'm sure you've known me for a while, and you know how amped up I can get, and you know how triggered I can get at things, right? I respect what you're saying, but quite frankly, I'm just going to sit back and whatever happens, happens. I am disappointed. I am scared about the future of our country. Like I mentioned on my stream earlier, at this point right now, I do not consider myself an American. I consider myself a Californian. I am not proud to be an American right now. I'm not. I'm not proud to be an American. The main reason is because, listen, if it wasn't for all of the convictions of Trump, like, the felonies, the incitement at the incitement of insurrection at the Capitol building, if it wasn't for the accusations of widespread voter fraud, if it wasn't for an unpeaceful transfer of power when Biden won in 2020, and that's when COVID hit, people were dying, and during Trump's last 2 months in office, instead of working on finding a solution for COVID like Biden and Harris were already trying to do even before they got in office, Trump went golfing at Mar-a-Lago. Now, here's the thing, again, if it wasn't for all that, then, I'd say, okay, and I still said we lost. We did lose fair and square, in my opinion. Now, who knows? Who knows? Maybe we are getting the feeling something doesn't feel right. That doesn't mean something isn't right. And I want to be the bigger person and say, hey, whatever will be, will be. If something went wrong, it'll eventually pop up at some point, or somebody will be a whistleblower. I don't think anything happened, in my opinion, but who knows? My only issues, are people voting in a convicted felon and everything else I mentioned. It's like I just can't understand why anyone would vote someone like that, and even from their own party. But hey, to each its own. I mean, what can we do, right? I was gonna go live last night from the studio. Woolworth, and it was about almost 11 o'clock Pacific time. And I was so tired. Don and I just fell asleep. We were so tired. We were so emotionally just worn out. We were so emotionally worn out that we just went to bed. And then I got up at about 5 o'clock. So I got about 6 hours of sleep, maybe 6.5 hours of sleep. And then I'm like, I got to do my show because I just wasn't feeling good. I had to let it out. I had to let it out, and I wasn't feeling good, not just because Trump won, but because I've been dealing with people like Trump on YouTube that have affected me from being more successful out here on YouTube, in my opinion. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense, but I understand where you're coming from, and, who knows, maybe you're right. But, as I've gotten older, it's like, I just don't want to speculate anymore, you know what I mean? It's like, we can speculate all we want, But then does that make this any better than what Trump did in 2020? I mean, it is what it is. But I'm glad you're able to come here and share your thoughts, and you're more than welcome to. See, anyone is welcome to chat here, regardless of whose side you're on, as long as you're respectful. Tia's one of my top mods now, along with Santa Palacio and Queen Helen Casey. They're all my top mods here, and they're all Trump supporters. They're conservatives. Why? Because they're respectful with their differences. And I respect that about them. And quite honestly, when you're able to get along with people from the other side, you learn from them. And they can actually learn from you too. Do you think Biden and his son were totally innocent? That's a good question, Tia. I don't know. I don't know. You see, whenever the side accusing, okay, whenever one side accuses another, it's typically because the side accusing the other has been accused of something else first, and they're trying to create a smokescreen. So, I mean, look, Hunter could have been guilty, could still be guilty. I don't know. Or the whole thing could be just a play to create a smokescreen from the other side's issues and covering up the other side's issues. You know, Tia, it's always been, and I never wanted to see it this way. I don't like the war between liberals and conservatives. There's always been a war between liberals and conservatives. My wife told me that he was caught on a hot mic bragging about blowing out a lady's back years ago in California. He isn't. Maybe so. Maybe so. And if that's the case, then that's really sad. But here's the thing. Who wouldn't try to cover that up? Like, if you're in Biden's shoes, right? If you're in Biden's shoes and you've had such a stellar political career, and he has. Yes, Biden's older now, and yes, you know, he's got some issues, and that's why he stepped away, right? But Biden has had one hell of a stellar career. He's been pretty much above board on pretty much everything. And then, you know, his son goes off and does something that can tarnish the family name. Of course you're going to try to cover it up. And I got to be fair, even though I'm liberal. It's like, you got to be fair. Look, what would you do if you were in Biden's shoes? Like, see, what people need to do is put themselves in other people's shoes. What would you do? Is it right if Hunter was guilty? Is it right? No. But who wouldn't try to protect their kids, right? But this is also on the biggest stage, not only in the U.S., but in the world, because our government is pretty much on the world stage, right? When you're on the biggest stage in the world, then everyone talks, right? And not everyone's going to be as reasonable as you and I are being, right? I heard a lot of nasty things said about Hunter by many conservative extremists over the years out here on YouTube. I'm sure you have too. But yeah, I mean, it's no different than what Trump's done, if it's true, right? It's similar aspects, right? Trump's been abusive to women. Trump is still verbally abusive to women, and he's probably been physically abusive too. That's my opinion. In my opinion, most, or should I say, a lot of politicians are crooked. Of course, I mean, yeah, that's the comment of the year, Tia, or that could be the comment of the decade or the century, right there. That, I mean, we could sum everything up regarding what you just said and never have to do another show again and retire peacefully, right? Most politicians are crooked. Well, most CEOs of companies are crooked. Most people in a position of power are crooked. Because the two things the two things these people want are money and power. And power gets you more money. Right? Power gives you more control and tremendously helps you make more money. Unethically, in my opinion, at least, or even sometimes illegally. But if you're in a position of power, like the President of the United States, apparently you get a get out of jail card free on everything. I wonder if Trump murdered somebody. Could he pardon himself for murder? Like, honestly, like this is a serious question. Could Trump pardon himself if he murdered someone? I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm saying it could be anyone. It could be Biden. Could be Harris. Could have been anyone. Could have been, old Billy Boy from the past, or Barack, or any of the Bushes, or Reagan, or anyone. The woman in California said Trump said she was silly about the back comment. Really? I'm just saying you can't cover for anybody. They are all basically the same. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Tia, because you have some great questions or great comments tonight. You always do. And same with you, Woolworth. How do ethical people like you and I, and you can answer this too, Woolworth, if you like, but more so for Tia, how do ethical people like us play in a very unethical world, right? Because people like myself have a moral compass, and even if I knew I can make $1 million doing something unethical or unethically and getting away with it, I still couldn't do it. My morals, values, and ethics, I guess the moral high ground I live on just wouldn't allow me to do that. How do ethical people like us participate in a very unethical world? And sometimes those unethical actions are borderline illegal, or actually hop over the line of riding the line and then crossing the line, right? We are at 59 minutes, almost about to turn 60 minutes. 1 hour exactly. All right. Not bad timing. We're heading back, folks. We're heading back. There's a lot of traffic on the 101 today. But it's that time of day, you know. It's getting closer to 5 p.m. Pacific. Tia says, I look at my relationship with God. I tried to be the best person I can be, and I agree with you. Your morals are very important. I don't take dirty money. I don't want dirty. I agree. I guess it's safe to say, Tia, that if you and I, didn't walk on the moral high ground we walk on, and we did a few unethical things every now and then, not necessarily illegal, but we did a few unethical things like other people do to make money, we'd have a lot more money. But how would we feel about that? I know I'd feel shitty, and I think you would too. And that's part of the problem, because I'm not trying to be mean about Donald Trump, but Donald Trump preys on the vulnerabilities of people that have a moral high ground. Because I don't think he does. And you're right, not every politician, for the most part, maybe not all, but most of them, ride lines and skate lines. Some of them cross lines. Some people out here on YouTube, they ride lines and then they cross lines when riding lines isn't good enough, right? So I get it. And maybe that's part of the reason of what attracted you to come over here and support Don and I and follow us, because of where our morals are at, especially when it comes to money. I'm getting really hungry. I haven't eaten too much today. Whenever I do 2 shows in one day, and especially after the election last night, which took a lot out of me emotionally, which drains me physically. And then got up early, did an hour-and-a-half show from the studio. I know I had some emails and messages to get back to, including you, Tia, Sandra, and some others. And other things I'm working on with Dawn for the rest of the week and around the house. Oh, man. It might be an early night for me tonight. Tonight might be an early night for me. Tia says, that was a big part, and the misfits will never understand. No, they won't. I appreciate that, Tia, and so does Don. We really appreciate that. We've talked about it before, but I'll say it again. Everything comes to an end. Good, bad, and different. All good things come to an end. Bad things come to an end. Everything eventually comes to an end. Right? People get older. They get wiser. They get tired. I'll tell you, for me, one thing that really, really turned things around for the way I look at YouTube and, the way I've learned to more so balance and manage my time and stuff is having a good woman like Dawn come into my life. Because a good woman's going to balance you out. And a good man is going to balance a good woman out, right? And that's how it probably was between you and your husband, Tia, God rest his soul. Is you balance each other out. You were the yin to each other's yang, right? Just like Dawn and I are, right? And that makes a huge difference. Especially if you're out here creating content, there's a lot of scrutiny and there's a lot of competition and I don't like competition, but there is. But when you have someone that balances you out, it allows you to think more clearly and calmly. And it also allows you to realize that there's more to life than just YouTube. For people that don't have anyone and they're dependent on YouTube for their complete 100% social interaction, that's what causes the issues for them. That's what gets them to behave in these erratic ways, right? Tia says very much so. Yeah, of course. You both balance each other out. You and your husband, God rest his soul once again. It looks like the 101 is rolling smoothly again until you get over there. I see. So it's rolling smoothly until you get over here, unless you're in the fast track lane in the far left. I love fast track. It is, like I've said before, it is so worth paying a little bit of toll to not have to sit in traffic, because you waste more gas and you put more wear and tear on your car just sitting in traffic. And the amount of time you save, time is money. There have been times where if it wasn't for fast track, on a 20-minute drive, it would have taken over an hour. The traffic was that bad, especially when there's an accident. Now, if the accident is in the fast track lane, then you're fucked. And sometimes the accident is in the fast track lane because here's the thing. When all other lanes are not moving, but the fast track lane is moving, and there's a car coming at 65, 70 miles an hour, and then you jump into the fast track lane trying to get in, and you don't notice that car coming, boom. That could create a big boom. A serious boom. I've seen that happen. I've not seen it, but I've seen accidents in the fast track lane. And then at that point, it's like, when that lane is blocked, then no one's going anywhere. You know, I gotta say that at age 50, I'm just not letting things bother me as much anymore. Yeah, I was hurt last night. I had a hard time breathing for a little while. And I'm still, still a little hurt over the situation. But you got to move on. Like Kamala Harris said in her session speech earlier, we got to accept it and move on, right? We may not like certain things in life, but some things are inevitable and some things are not going to go our way, and we got to accept them and move on. We can't dwell on things that we have no control over and that aren't going to change. The longer we dwell on those things, the more time we're wasting. And I'm not going to waste my time dwelling over Trump. I'm just not going to. Hey, who knows what happens in 4 years? I hope Harris runs again. At that point, Trump won't be able to run again, so she'll probably, in 4 years, it'll probably be Vance versus Harris. No, God bless America if J.D. Vance becomes president, then we're really fucked. But anyways, that's just my opinion. J.D. Vance, a guy that trash talked Donald Trump in like 2016. He trash talked Trump, and now he's Trump's vice president. This is the kind of shit that this is the kind of stuff about people in general, but I see it more so with conservatives, the hypocrisy. I'm going to trash talk this guy, but now he's choosing me as his vice president running mate, and now, because he won, he's the VP. I'm sure it's very hard for Kamala. I feel for her there. I wish her the best. Well, you know what? I see abortion now, I believe, has gone at a state level, and we still have abortion rights here, I believe, in California. But there are some states where women don't have those rights. And I just think women should have the right to choose. I think the man that got the woman pregnant should have half of that right too. But sometimes the man's not around. At the very least, a woman should have a choice to her reproductive rights, regardless of what anyone else says or thinks, right? This isn't like the Old Testament of the Bible, right? But Kamala played that card hard, and there's a lot more to the election than abortion rights, reproductive rights, and all that. I bet in 2028 it'll be Vance and Harris. And I bet Harris will be much more prepared. And I bet you Harris will be doing a lot more podcasts and stuff by that point. I bet you she'll be going on the Joe Rogans and all that. It's going to be very interesting the next 2 years and then the next 4 years. Right now, the Republicans control everything. In 2 years, let's see what happens, because things changed 2 years after Biden got into office in 2020 and then 2022. Now let's see what happens in 2026 and then 2028. We're going to have Harris and Vance, my prediction. I don't think she'll run again. Why do you say that? I think she will run again. She's still young. Why wouldn't she run? Donald Trump ran 3 times. 2 times for re-election, lost the first time, and re-ran again and then won. I think Kamala will run one more time. And then if she wins, she can do 2 terms. Kind of crazy for sure, says Tia. Just your thoughts? Yeah, yeah, I understand. I totally get it. Totally get it. Had to respond to something real quick. All good. We're all good now. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do from the studio sometime this week or next week or over the weekend at some point, I want to do a stream on why I feel, some people from other parts of the U.S. shame Californians because there's a lot of California shaming going on. And this is not the first time it's been happening. Like, I've been shamed for being a Californian, for the last 6.5 plus years by some very crazy and ridiculous people out here. A lot of them were men that create crazy type of content, and they're from the Midwest and the South. And here's the thing. The truth of the matter is that California, believe it or not, California is a self-sustaining economy. We could sustain ourselves independent of the federal government if we had to. I think part of the problem is many people that trash Californians, right, wish they could be Californians. Because I'll tell you this, I'm not the kind of person that's going to show off or anything, but I feel very fortunate that my father chose the San Francisco Bay Area in California to raise us. And I feel very fortunate that my family has settled here. And there's no other place I'd rather be. This is home. Right? So when you look at, issues that many of you are dealing with in other parts of the U.S., Midwest, South particularly, right? Because New York's economy can survive probably. For the most part, I think New York could survive on their own too because they're very similar to California. But they're not as big as California. And California is the 5th largest economy in the world on its own, right? If you want to make it your daily, all-day, everyday mission to shame Californians, right? Do what you got to do, right? But I'm proud to be a Californian. I'll tell you, I'm much more proud to be a Californian than I am to be an American right now. And a lot of people from California are feeling that way after the election yesterday. Yes, California does have a decent amount of conservatives too. But the majority, and I'm not saying that the conservatives are not prominent, but the majority of the prominent people are in the blue areas, not the red areas. I'm not shaming the red areas of California, right? A lot of the people also in the red areas, even in California, I hate to say it, are uneducated or uninformed, or they're unreasonable. That's just my opinion. And I've toured all over Northern California. I've run networking events all over Northern California and even parts of Central California. So I've met a lot of people. Made a lot of friends. Very few enemies. I didn't have that many enemies because the people I was around for the most part were just decent people, regardless of their political views or political party preference or choice. California is one of the healthiest states. People are much more conscientious of how they care for themselves. Yeah, and let me ask you a question, Tia, just because your opinions do matter to me. I value them because you're very reasonable. Do you think a lot of the people that shame Californians are jealous because they're not from California? Here's another thing. The only natural disasters we have here are earthquakes, and they happen very rarely. We don't deal with tornadoes. We don't deal with hurricanes. Tia says definitely. Right, right, right. So what do we call that? State shaming? So the misfits like to state shame because they're not from California. Yeah. I know a few of the misfits are from the West Coast, Washington and Oregon, right? One of the dudes that has the initials of JO is out here on the West Coast. Uh-huh. Yes, you are, sir. You at least used to be a software engineer. And who knows if you are or not anymore. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you made enough money and you reinvested and now you're just a YouTube jerk off all day. That's pretty sad. You shame Californians too, and you live just above California. You live in one of the biggest liberal zones on the planet, Mr. J.O. Anyway, it is what it is. California shame all you want. Like R.J. Sandefur used to say, you're going down, down, down. That's right, you're going down. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. The misfits are not on the radar anymore, Tia. They're not. It's all good. I run my shows. Like earlier, I did a show with no chat and no comments turned on. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again. I just wanted to share my thoughts uninterrupted. Not just from trolls, but even from people I care about. I just wanted to share my thoughts, right? And that's how a lot of my content's going to be in the future. Some of it will even be pre-recorded to the point of where I can just share my thoughts. Like, sometimes you just got to do that because going live can have a lot of distractions and you can lose your train of thought very easily if there's a live chat. So at that point, if you want to get something out without distractions, what are your options? Do a live stream with the chat turned off, or do a pre-recorded video. I like doing lives because it saves the hassle of uploading. And it also still has a live audience watching you there and getting you more views. Right? But things over here on the GNA end are starting to get a little more laser focused. Tia says, yeah, the lies I like to watch better. Turn the chair off is fine. Turn the chair off? What do you mean by turn the chair off? More specific, sorry. You're mentioning some analogy there, and it's going over my head, Tia. Please forgive me. Lives in chat. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I got it now. Ooh. Ooh. I'll tell you what the funniest thing is. The funniest thing is when people pretend to be triggered at you because it incites a response out of their audience. That's the greatest one, when people pretend to be triggered over something that's just irrelevant. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Yeah, it's probably just about. Is it like 7 o'clock your time, Tia? Just after 7? It's gonna get dark here. It's probably nearing on the top of the hour. It's probably almost 5 o'clock my time. 7:08, so it's 5:08. So yeah, the sun's set. All right. So Democrats really need to start doing a better job of creating their own consistent podcast shows that not only goes for politicians or important people, but it also goes for people that are independent creators like the Joe Rogans and stuff. We need the liberal version of Joe Rogan. Do you know how many outlets conservatives have on the internet, including Truth Social, created by yours truly, Mr. Donald J. Trump? And there's money in Truth Social. There's a big opportunity. There's a big opportunity for Democrats to close the gap, and that's use the damn internet. And use it consistently. And prioritize it over mainstream media. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't deal with mainstream media, but you got to have a presence everywhere. And Brian Tyler Cohen, I believe is how you pronounce his name, the liberal political commentator out here on YouTube, 3.5 million subscribers, more than Tim Pool, who's a conservative commentator, used to be a liberal commentator. Just like he said, Democrats are not reaching everybody, or they're not reaching people in the right way, and they're missing out on huge opportunities. And maybe that's something I can help the Democrats with, because I love the internet. I've been on it forever. I'm from Silicon Valley. I'm a YouTube expert, LinkedIn expert, Facebook expert. I know how to do video and other stuff on Facebook, postings, events. Expert on X, formerly known as Twitter. You got to leverage your social media presence. I need to even do a better job of that. At least I use YouTube regularly and Facebook. And at times I'll use LinkedIn and Twitter, but I even got to do a better job at it. I've got the tools, I just have to use them, right? So that's one of the biggest opportunities I see for liberals, Democrats. I'm going to wrap it up here today at 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Going to be the better person and say congratulations to the Trump campaign. You guys did a better job. It's obvious. The people spoke. I still don't think, the people should have voted for a convicted felon, but hey, you know what? If you're able to win as a convicted felon, then who the fuck am I to say how you should mark it or not? But I can tip my hat and be a better person and at least congratulate people like we used to do back in the days in Little League when we would lose. We would still say good game and we would be courteous, and that's called having sportsmanship. And if you got upset for losing, that would be called poor sportsmanship, and that was frowned upon, and you would be punished for that. We need to do a better job of having better sportsmanship, figuratively speaking, because politics aren't sports, but let's just call it sportsmanship for example purposes, right? We need to do a better job of being good sports instead of being poor sports. Tia, thank you so much for being here. Woolworth, thank you for being here. And anyone else that was here watching behind the scenes, thank you so much. I'm going to go relax. Tia says, what a nice walk. Thanks, Eli. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Tia. Have a good one. Take care. And as always, be good to each other. Good night.